development process. And as we are attending to, in a very systematic way now, into building a talent pipeline that will take all of our national teams and ultimately Bafana into this long-term success, it is critical that we put in place that talent identification and development culminating in a successful under-17 national team that will provide the foundation for Bafana to grow and be successful in the future. But medium to long-term success, which is what this process is about, is not the only thing that we are working on. In parallel, we are obviously working in a very significant way to say, how do we achieve immediate success with our senior men's national team? Because we have two very important dates with destiny. Our first one that looms on the horizon is the start of our qualification for Brazil 2014, for the FIFA World Cup in Brazil. That process begins in June with our first qualifier at home against Ethiopia and then away against Botswana. Those two matches set us on the journey to qualification for Brazil 2014. And coming in between that qualification process, of course, is the very critical process, a very critical event of us hosting the African Cup of Nations in January next year, 2013. And it is absolutely critical that as an association, that we have a team that will perform and do well at the African Cup of Nations. It's a very critical goal for us, because the whole country will expect it. And so we have to not only look at our medium to long-term development processes, which we are attending to, but we also need to look at the short-term issues. And today's announcements cover both sides, both of those two parallel streams. And so it gives me then great delight to announce 3 coaching moves that I think one of them will be a surprise, and the other 2, one is known already, but I want to re-emphasize it, and the third one is probably the worst kept secret in football at the moment. Let me start off with the short term and the immediate of making Bafana successful. For a long time, we have been discussing with the coach his request and our desire to have a local assistant coach to work alongside him and to bolster his technical team. The coach, in discussions with us, has identified his man. And it gives me great pleasure, on behalf of the association, to announce the appointment as assistant coach on a part-time basis of Mr. Steve Komphela. Steve, as you know, needs no introduction to yourselves as football writers. He's one of our most experienced and well-known coaches. He is currently having another great season as he works with the team at the Free State Stars. He is no stranger to the association, having acted in the role of assistant coach under 2 coaches, Stuart Baxter and Carlos Quiros. He's also no stranger to our head coach, and Coach Musamani will talk about that. They play together, they work together, and so there is a good relationship between the 2. We are delighted because we believe that of course we have an existing assistant coach, Coach Lial, who provides us with tremendous international experience, but we've agreed with the coach that it is very important that we have a local assistant who can assist in whatever way the coach wants to use him, and of course one of the key things is on the relationship with the clubs. And as a head coach of one of the PSL teams at present, Steve is in a very, very good position to assist in that circumstance. And so, Steve, welcome to the association. It gives us great delight to have you. I'm going to give you a chance to say some words in a little while, and also Coach Musamani to say some words. But I wanted to welcome you, Steve, and say we are delighted to have a man of your caliber, a level 3 coach, a senior man of stature in the football fraternity to come on board. I also want to say a great big thank you to Free State Stars. It is a sacrifice for them. to give up their coach over, even if it is only for the FIFA date and for the camps that we are in. It is a big sacrifice to them. And it does take Steve away from having the single mind focus on his team. And we want to say thank you to Free State Stars, to Mike McQuena, for their recognition of the importance of national duty. And thank you to them. Their patriotism is acknowledged and is celebrated with much thanks. On the issue of our under-17 national team coach, the National Executive Committee this weekend took a decision at the recommendation of the Technical Committee to close down our Chan team as a separate team. As you know, when we played in the last Chan tournament, we decided to create a separate team with a separate structure, known as our Chan team, our development team. Given that the Chan tournament in 2014 will be hosted here in South Africa, we took a decision, which was endorsed by the National Executive Committee, that the Chan team as a separate coached structure will no longer exist within the association. The team that will play in the Chan tournaments will be Bafana Bafana, with our existing technical team of Coach Musamani, Liao, and now Komphela, who will control that team. Of course, it will only be made up of local-based players, South African players playing in the PSL or the NFD or in our amateur leagues, but it will still be Bafana Bafana. And so that team, which will represent us in 2014, will be coached by our national team coach. So it will not be a separate team. It will be Bafana Bafana, around which the nation will rally. And that meant, of course, that we have in our employment a very, very experienced national team development coach in the name of Mr. Simon Gumani. Simon, as you know, has been the coach of the Chan team, but also he is no stranger to SAFA, having worked for many, many years with Mr. Horst Krita, who was the technical advisor to the association. Simon has worked on the academy manuals, on the coaching manuals, on the technical master plan of the association, and comes to us with a wealth of experience in football development, in youth development, and we believe that he is the ideal person to be redeployed from the Chan coach position, which no longer exists, to now become the head coach of the under-17 national team. In addition to that role, he will also be helping us to set up one of those key pillars in our technical framework, which is around talent identification and development. An under-17 national team coach, his eyes need to be on the under-14s and the under-13s, because that's where the journey to national team success begins. And so we've had a good conversation with Simon, and he understands that brief. And as such, we are delighted, Simon, to appoint you in this way, to redeploy you from your current position in the association to be head of the under-17 team. So congratulations on that appointment, on that new appointment. The third appointment is not a new one, and we in fact sent out a press release about it last year, but I wanted to speak about it this morning because it is nevertheless an important one for the association. At the end of last year, we redeployed Cabo Zondo, who had been the men's under-20 national team coach, to become the head coach of the Transnet School of Excellence. Now, when we did that, we did so with, it was a clear indication from our part that we are determined, together with our partners Transnet, to restore the School of Excellence to where it was when it was producing so many of our national team players. And together with Simon, as the head coach of the under-17s, Cabo and he together, with the rest of our structures throughout this country, will be focused on identifying the 40 best under-13, under-14 players who will enter that School of Excellence in the next year, so that we are sure that out of that pool of players will come the core of our under-17 team. This is something we already do with our women's structures, where at the High Performance Centre, currently 70% or 80% of the under 17s and under 20s